On the show today, I have my good friend Chris Sheehan, who is the founder of Fearless, an online program that helps kids navigate life, helps them ask the right questions so they can get the right answers to be better, be fearless. On the show, me and Chris talk about what's happening in the world, why kids are struggling so much, and that the wave of COVID hasn't hit them correctly yet, and it's coming, and what we can do and what he is doing to help kids overcome and take on these challenges that they're facing. He not only does the online stuff, he does talks in schools, he does school days, breakfast clubs. The man is literally helping to change his nation in regards to building stronger generations. Guys, I hope you love this show because I loved recording it. Let's get into it. The big thing I say is you gotta win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed.
What you truly value.
No right way and there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler podcast.
Guys, welcome to the show. My guest today is Chris Sheehan, and he has the patience of a saint listening to me with my microphone issues. Chris, we're going to get into it because we only have probably about 3 minutes to do the show before my computer picks up on me. So Chris is in a program with me with Coach Paul Mort, but we met at the Dandelion conference. But for people that don't know, you run a program called Fearless. Tell us a little bit about that and then why you got into running it and when was it created?
So Fearless is a mindset program for kids. I basically help kids live more confident, happier, fulfilling lives. They come in to the program. I've had lots of kids come in with low confidence, wanting to try new sports, nervous at school, trouble making friends, anger issues at home, whatever it may be. They come into the program and the changes that they're making within 3 to 4 months it's like they're making a complete U-turn, complete polar opposites of how they were before. I've got kids in a program that didn't want to start any sort of dance or gymnastics a few months ago, and now inside a legacy program, performing at festivals in front of like 1,000 people and winning competitions every other week. So it's proof in itself, really, that what we do as well. And when you implement that into a child's life, it has a massive effect on how they feel. The reason I do what I do is because 2018, I found myself at a local cliff top to where I live after years of feeling low. Then there was a period of 3 things that I say like the 3 main catalysts that led me to that point. And when I was stood at the cliff, I had this massive overwhelming feeling of guilt inside me of the thought of leaving my 2 boys without a dad. We've always had like a really close bond, close relationship, and the thought of leaving them and the impact it had on their lives just was what basically turned me around that day. And I always say to people, like, my kids are my biggest heroes and they don't even know it. And because of my boys, I'm now impacting all these lives that I'm working with as well. And I just walked away that day and I made a massive promise to myself and to my kids that I'd sort myself out, not only for me, but also for their sake. So the reason I do what I do is because I never want to see my kids get to that point. But then also realize there's millions of other children out there that are in the same boat. Their parents might be struggling, or they might just have issues at school, like we work with on a regular basis. And you get kids coming into your gym all the time that are struggling with confidence and stuff as well. And I truly believe that if I had the tools and techniques I have now, when I was their age, there's no way I would have got to that point in 2018. I think the way I try and describe it to people is, we're always massive on vaccines and stuff like that. And I kind of see like what we do with kids is almost giving them a vaccine for their mental health whilst they're at a good age to, what they're like sponges. So you give them this information now, they soak it up, implement it, even if they do little bits and pieces of it as they grow up, and you're giving them the tools now to stop them getting to that point when they're later on in life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we'll dive into the program and what you do with them specifically, because we've done this before, and I have notes from the last show that obviously with the mic issues. But like one of the things that you said, and we actually just had an example of that happen, is we had a guy, it's our coach, one of our coaches, 22, literally after college, completely just fried. He just finished his college, his 4 years, mentally fried, was working. He'd always just go, "I'll be grand, it'll be grand." And he like he literally he struggled. But the thing that was the biggest the biggest thing that happened was he came to me while he was coaching. He goes, "Can I grab 5 minutes with you after class?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem, no problem." First thing was I was thinking he's gonna hand his notice, or he's just like, or something like that. But he comes in and he's literally just pouring out everything that is he's like, and pretty much classic signs of burnout.
Yeah.
I know because I've been there, you've been there, like where it's just like there's nothing left in the tank and you still have to turn up. And the big thing I said to him was you got to understand that most people your age, at 22 years of age, that feel like that end up numbing themselves with alcohol or sniffing something up their nose or doing other things to numb themselves from what's happening. What you've done, and he's gone through our program. He was a teen from 15 and now a coach at 22. He went through our program system of training, mindful, being strong, testing yourself, where he was strong enough to go, "I'm not okay. I need some help."
Yeah.
And like you say, is like you can help people overcome them. If we teach kids and teens these tools, then by the time they get to our age, and when in your circumstance or my circumstances, they'll have the better tools to deal with it. So they'll never get that bad, or they'll never have to go into those depths.
Yeah.
And
100%.
again, your experience is what has led you to help more kids. Same with my experiences. So I think that's huge. And even like you said, that gymnastics girl that didn't want, wasn't sure, low confidence, and then what was I think was you said 3 months with you. Then she's
Yeah.
making the
Yeah.
legacy squads, performing at festivals on TV, all that stuff. Like, it's amazing. And in 3 months, it's like not an awful lot of time to
No.
literally impact and have a child lead a stronger, more focused, better clarity lifestyle.
Yeah.
So with the program, so Fearless, I know you, I like, we did the Dandelion conference, and that was the first time I got a real good in-depth insight into your program and your story. And that was your first, because you've done talks with schools, was that your first conference talk, like guest
Yeah. Yeah.
speaker talk? Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And you went first. You had to go first.
Yeah. I was thrown straight at the deep end.
So describe that for that moment. Firstly, when you got dropped the bomb that you were going first, and how you like speaking in a room, and we were well out of our. Well, I felt I was well out with the people in that room. They were like, we were just like, oh, we'll get them fit, and then there's so much else going on. How did that all come to you, and how did it feel, and what was your takeaway from the whole experience?
So, yeah, like I said, I do assemblies all the time at different schools. I can stand up in front of a set of year nines and get heckled and be absolutely fine. But standing in front of what I knew that day was going to be full of like psychiatrists and people that work on a daily basis and an in-depth. So, looking back now, I'd say what we do is just, not surface, it's just slightly below the surface level of what's going on. But it was a real eye opener for me. And I think, we were saying the same together, that when these other people came in and spoke, we were just like, wow, like we didn't realize like all the stuff. Obviously, we have an idea of what's going on, but a lot of it you don't really hear about at all, like the real sort of stuff that has a massive impact on people, on kids' developments and on their lives and stuff. So I went into that day. I only knew because Nikki sent me a picture of all the packs sent out on a table. And I was like, just so I know, like mine's at the top. Does that mean I'm going first? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, right, when were you going to plan on telling me that? So I went in, and I think looking back now, I'm kind of glad I went first.
Yeah.
Because, I went into it not knowing what to expect, really. I can speak in front of kids, and I think I articulate better with kids. That probably says more about me than what it does about anything else. But I find it easier to talk to kids. I can get things across easier to kids. And being my first conference and talking in that sort of environment, I was nervous. I was really nervous, but then I kind of seem to remember what I tell the kids, and we always live by things, do what you said you would. And if I'm going to preach to the kids about doing these things, I need to make sure I'm doing them myself. And all the kids in my program always say to them, look, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I would never do or something that I haven't done already, because that's just not how I operate. So when I'm stepping up onto that stage and I know I've got to speak in front of all those people, I'm almost in my head saying, well, what would I say to the kids in the program? If someone come to me with this problem, what advice would I give them? Yeah. And then I kind of implemented that myself. But yeah, looking back, I'm kind of glad I went first, because I saw how much you were sweating, waiting to go.
Man. I was shirt and slacks and everything. I was all fancied up. And I was sweating so bad, and I wasn't until after lunch. And yeah, it was. Oh man! Well, it was a great day. It was like you say, it was eye-opening to what we are doing is impactful, but what's going on is so crazy.
Scary.
It's that scary that we have systems, and we're like, again, obviously it was more like it was held in England, so it was the English system. The Irish system is just as bad and just malfunctioning, and it's not the people in it, the people trying to help. It's the system itself, and the likes of what Nikki's doing, and the people in that room that are all there to learn more and qualified with Nikki's program. Like that's I think the not ticking boxes, you're on the stepping stone, the precipice of change, but it's going to be a long road. But I think because those services aren't there properly for kids when they need them, that's where the likes of yourself and myself and anyone else is kind of looking to get into or do what we are doing to like teach kids. Like, yeah, life is like, firstly, life isn't fair. It's just not. I wish it was, but it's not. You get given like, again, the way the analogy I use is you're given a deck of cards, you're given a hand, and it's how you play the hand. And if you're good, even with a shit hand, you can do really well in life. And you could have the best cards in the world, and you could fuck it up at the same time. Yeah. So I think it's unfair. It's hard. You have to do hard things. You have to be willing to go outside your comfort zone. And I think that's like the likes of the stuff that, like, again, that we're doing is huge. And with Fearless, so obviously you're doing the assemblies, but you also have a coaching group. So what does that, like, if I was ringing you, hey, Chris, I want to get my son in, what does that entail? So for someone that was thinking about working or finding someone like you, what's the program? What do you do?
So the program is online. There's a private Facebook group for the parents. So all the information, everything that they need gets downloaded, gets put into that group. I run one-to-one sessions as well. So the appointments and stuff that are available get dropped into there every week. We celebrate wins in there. If the parents have any questions, they drop them inside that as well. So, because what you'll find is as well, like, one parent will ask a question and it's always been on someone else's mind. So I want them to drop it inside the group so they can almost learn from each other. So they can see the advice I'm giving someone else and then implement that as well. Because you know what it's like, if you sit on a hot seat, you quite often find that someone will ask a question and then Paul will give a bit of advice and you'll be like, oh, that's something that I could use or I could implement. So that's all done with inside the group. When it comes to the coaching of the kids side of things, they all get their own journal. So I've got a Fierce journal that I've created, which is off the back of like 4 or 5 different journals that I've used over the years, and I've picked out the best bits. And it's hugely down to basically in the morning, we're putting our focus and attention on how we want to feel. So, your brain will always find what you tell it to look for. So the first 3 questions I get the kids to answer every single morning is, how do I want to feel? Why do I want to feel that way? And what I'm going to do is create it. Then they look for something that they're excited about. So straight away, they're putting their attention on what's going to be good that day and how they want to feel. And then in the evening, it's the same, really. We're focusing on what's been good. So we learn a lesson. What's the lesson been today? Could be anything from something they learned at school, something they learned about themselves, something they learned about a friend, a family member, whatever it might be, just something new they've learned that day, and 3 wins. And that's it. Every day we have a point system out of 5. I strongly believe that kids work really well for point system. Like if you get them to basically turn life into a game,
Yeah.
then they're more willing to do it. You know what it's like when the kids are younger. You go, oh, I'll time you to go upstairs and see if you can grab me this, or how quickly can you go and get this from the kitchen? I'm going to time you. You know, I do it at some of the clubs I'm run at. Like the kids love it. I've done Breakfast Club this morning, and I had like a load of empty wrappers from like breakfast bars, and the kids are like, oh, can I do the bin run? Like they want to see who's the quickest to get to the bin and back again. So that's the idea. Like you turn life into a bit of a game. So we have 5 points every single day. You have one for hydration, so water, one for movement, one for gratitude. So just writing down 3 things every single day that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
One for appreciation, so showing appreciation to someone, because you know if you give good out, you're going to get good back. And the other one is blackout, which I really love, and it's something that I haven't really seen in any of the other programs that I've seen knocking around. And it's basically half hour before bed. There's no electronics.
Yeah.
So they're teaching their brains to wind down before bed. And also what that's trying to implement as well is before bed, they do their journal, listen to the meditation, because I've created like a guided meditation as well. So they do their journal, do the guided meditation and go to sleep. So they're training their brains.
Yeah.
And I always say to the kids, your preparation for tomorrow starts today. So what you do this evening is going to prep you for tomorrow morning when you wake up. And then every week on a Sunday, they do their weekly review. So they look back, 5 favorite wins, the biggest lesson, what their score's been, what they could have done better, how they'll do it better next time. And then we plan for the week going forwards as well. So 5 things I need to get done this week to move me closer to my goal. I am, so I want them to write a power message, something important.
Yeah.
Just so they're sort of like implementing good reps, good communication, good language to themselves. And then that's it. And then that's their weekly review done. And the parents post the scores every single week inside the group. And that's basically the journal. We've got an emotions list on the back because I think kids are very much, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel angry, very black and white, where there's lots of different ways to feel all of those emotions as well. So we've got an emotions list and then magic moments at the end where, you know, a magic moment is something that you can close your eyes, take yourself back there, and you get that feeling again. So if I was to think about the conference, for example, or the first assembly that I done, or the holiday me and the kids had last year, you know, those would be magic moments, something that I remember. You know, like my boy had one a few weeks back. He actually played on the Brighton and Hove Albion football pitch. So he played on the Premier League pitch. And that's something he's going to remember for the rest of his life. And I said to him, you know, this is going to be a magic moment for you. It's something that he's always going to remember and recreate in his mind. And then every Sunday we have a training call. So I'll do like half hour of lessons. So this week we've had one. Last week we done, what was it? Oh, watch your language. So talking positively about yourself. You can probably see a jar up there, actually. So I'm doing an experiment with kids. Have you ever heard of Dr. Masaru Emoto?
No.
So he done an experiment. He talks about how important language is and how it can affect water. So basically his thing is your words matter. They are matter. And basically what he done is he took 2 glasses of water, wrote on one, I love you, wrote, I hate you on the other, spoke positive words, I love you, you're beautiful, you're amazing to the other. To the bad one, I hate you, you're disgusting, you're ugly. After a week, put them in a freezer, then looked at the ice underneath a microscope, and the good one formed ice crystals like little snowflakes, like really beautiful, like ice crystals. And the other one was really ugly, like it looked like oil and stuff like that under the microscope. So there's an experiment you can do with rice. So you do the same, separate into 2 jars. I love you, I hate you. Basically, you speak good words to it. It sounds nuts, and both my boys are like taking a piss out of me at the moment. I was walking around the living room this morning saying like, I hate you to a glass of rice. Right? But I'm intrigued by this stuff, man. Like it really interests me. And I've said to the kids about it, and like they're all like, nah. So I was like, I'm gonna do an experiment and prove you wrong. Because I've seen I've read the bits and pieces online, and I've seen what it can do. So it's almost proof that, you know, if you can turn, and you think about it, your body's made up of 60% water. Like if you speaking negative about yourself on a daily basis can affect a water particle, then what do you think it's going to do inside your body?
That's huge. Like that's a huge concept to like the mind your language thing. Not only the tests And I think that's a test that you should probably getting kids to do would be amazing. But that concept of is that like your words are matter. I think that's a really big thing. We were running strength camps for our kids and our teens at the moment during the summer, and we had the girls in yesterday, and I was saying to them, "What was your biggest win for the weekend?" And so, I was like, they weren't really giving me feedback on it, and it was kind of like nothing really cool happened, and I was like, you are in control of your energy, you are in control of how you feel, you're in control of everything that happens by your language, and
Yeah.
if you say the right thing you will pump yourself up. If you say a negative thing, you will. And I said, if we think sad thoughts, if we sat here for the next 5 minutes and just thought about all the sad things that happen in our life, guess what will happen? We're going to feel sad. If we think about all the positives, we're going to be. And that's all we've done is
Yeah.
spoke words to each other.
Yeah.
I
It's
said,
like that
that's,
story.
yeah,
It's like that story. Did you, I can't remember who's. Oh, where did I hear it? Basically, there was two parents, two boys, both went to climb the same tree. One parent said to him, "Be careful you don't fall." The other one said, "Hang on tight." So the other one went up thinking he was going to fall because he's been told not to fall. The other one went
yeah,
up focusing on the fact just to hold on tight, and then one fell off.
yeah,
It's that language, isn't it? You know yourself, like when you do sports in particular, like if you're in a team talk, for example, like when I was a captain of a local football team, like we'd come in at half time and lads be like, we'd be 1-0 down, all the lads like really like, oh. Come at lunch, come in at like half time, you have a drink and stuff, and whatever you say to them there is what really
mm,
matters. And you can literally, within 15 minutes at half time, change the whole way someone's looking at something
yeah,
by using the right words. And you see these teams, they go in heads down and they come out fired up, ready to go. And and it's exactly the same with that. Like what you say is so important. Now, the way I get it over to the kids is, if you're talking bad about yourself every single day, yeah, I consider that to be a rep. Every time you say something, it's going to be a rep. What
yeah,
happens when you lift the weight in the gym? You do one rep. Yeah. What happens if you keep doing that? What happens if you do 200 reps? The muscle gets stronger. All that negative talk about yourself, that thing you keep telling yourself over and over again, is a rep. And the more you say it, the stronger it gets. The same as what your muscle does in the gym.
Well, that's I don't know if you it's so there's a podcast with one of Joe Rogan's Abigail Shriver, I think is her name. Could be wrong. And she wrote a book. Her new book is about therapy and why therapy is so bad for people. And like obviously Joe Rogan was quite skeptical, but her point was that the research into it is like when you go into therapy, a lot of therapy, not all, she goes, not all therapy, but a lot of therapy. People end up staying in therapy for all their lives because all they keep doing is talking about and revisiting all the negative things that happen in your life. So you're
Yeah.
getting an isolated hour of bad talk. Like, you said your language is reps. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna steal that and say that to the 20 boys that come in at half one today. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna suddenly say it. So I just did this talk, but like that's it. Your language is a rep, and if you keep repeating the same thing, like if you keep lifting weight, you'll get stronger. If you keep running, you'll get better. If you keep saying negative things about yourself, 100% you're going to believe that. Like that's and those little insights to kids and teens can really change their outlook. I genuinely think that they can change their outlook, and that's again why your impact is so important to what you're doing with the kids. And I know
Yeah.
like you've taken kids on hikes and solo walks and just
Yeah.
getting them
Yeah.
out. Yeah, which is so tell like obviously you do the online, but as you say, you do some in-person stuff as well. So
Yeah.
with the hikes and stuff like that, so what tell us about what that's involved and like kind of what's the expectations and what do the kids think they of it and
Yeah.
what's the feedback you've gotten from it? I know that's a lot of questions there, but
That's fine then.
take your
So
time.
the live event I'd done, the Fearless live event was in the forest. And basically I wanted to get everyone together, because community is really important. And I'm a massive believer that creating the community inside the Fearless program is massive. I've got kids in Cornwall, I've got one in Liverpool, Manchester area, I've got one in Scotland. I've got a few kids local here, so they're scattered all over the place. But what you find is they start making friendships with these kids just because they're on the same journey as them. And you know what the camaraderie is like inside Paul's program. Like the guys all come together, and it's a very powerful feeling. And you know, some of these kids, they do struggle to make friends at school, but they have this community on a Sunday evening where they can come in and they feel like they're a part of something, and they love it, and they all help each other as well. I had a girl the other week who wanted to get into girls football, and there's another girl in the program who does girls football and also coaches as well. So she was given advice, and I think that's so important, because if you can teach kids rather than take the piss out of each other and to pick on each other, to actually celebrate each other, support each other in the right direction, and to help each other, like everyone's going to start rising up. Everyone's energy is going to start picking up. Everyone's going to start feeling happier. So I believe that the community side of things is massive. And with the Fearless forest walk that we've done, basically the day before I went out into the forest and I left notes in different places. So basically I walked to a point where I wanted to be, and I left a note there. And then I worked my way back through, and they had to find their way through the forest and look for certain things. So not only did they have to work as a team, they had to work individually as well, because some of them had to learn to speak up and be confident using their words, rather than just letting one or two in the group say what they wanted to say and lead the way. So I made sure everyone had their say. Has anyone got any ideas? Does anyone want to speak up and make any suggestions? And that was massive as well, because then everyone started getting involved. I gave one lad who was quite low in confidence. I made him leader of the group. So I gave him responsibility, because, you know, kids thrive when you give them responsibility as well. Give them a bit of responsibility. They love it. Like if you was to have a kid in your group who's feeling a little bit low or a little bit, you know, a little bit down, had a bad session, you go, oh, could you do me a massive favor? I'd really appreciate it if you could help me put the kettlebells away, or you could do this, or you could do that, or you be in charge of doing this for me, while I go off and get everyone else set up. Because it gives them a sense of like being needed, or like it's like they need that encouragement to go off and do something themselves as well. So I gave this to this young lad, Lucas, as well, and he absolutely thrived in it. He'd done a really good job. But basically, I left like parts of phone numbers. I left numbers, and they had to work out and determine what the clues were, what they led to. So I was writing everything down, and at the end, we made a phone call, which happened to be my mum. And I gave her a script to read out. And basically she was like, oh, well done for completing the mission. You need to go back to so-and-so, which was the cafe inside the forest, and ask them, give them the secret passcode. They will hand over the secret information that you need. And basically it was just a big envelope full of Haribo sweets.
Yeah.
So the kids, they had to work together as a team. There had to be a community. They had to step up and show confidence and passion. They had to show knowledge and all sorts, and share it all together as a team in order to get their prize at the end of it. And they absolutely loved it. And every time I see them, they're like, oh, when are we going to do another one? I'm like, I'm going to plan one for the summer holidays. It's going to be huge. We're going to do a really good one in the summer holidays. So that's like the live meetup. With the one-to-ones, I tend to go out and I set the kids an intention. Like we'll go out, and, you know, I've got a young lad who's ADHD, and he's just being tested for autism as well. And we'll go out, and if I don't give him an intention, he's all over the place. He's like running here, there, doing roly-polies, all sorts of stuff, right? But if I go out and go, right, today we need to go out, our mission is we need to go and find this. I throw a weighted bag on him. I have a weighted bag as well, like I always do when I go for a walk, and we go out together, and that's it. He's got his focus, he's got attention. Whilst he's focused and dialed into what he wants to achieve and what he needs to do, he's also letting his walls and his barriers down, and he's open up to me whilst we're talking and walking at the same time. So it's just breaking that barrier down, and off the back of that as well, there's a lot of trust that's built.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always say to the parents, first couple of sessions when we do the one-to-one, it's all about building trust, letting them see that I'm a safe place for them to come and talk to, open up to, offer good advice, coach, etc. So yeah, they're the like the one-to-one meets we have. We have those fortnightly, and then obviously they get full access to everything else inside the program as well.
Yeah. No, like I think that, like, the thing you mentioned is giving them intention to have their focus, and with the groups, like it's like like with camps and stuff like that, you see them, they all come together eventually. And only like we started our camps last week, and last week, the end of last week, was the first time in the history of FSM that the guys start coming together. The guys more so the girls. Girls come together quicker, but the
Yeah.
guys start coming together at the end of week one. Normally doesn't happen until week 3 or week 4 when everyone's like, and they were encouraging each other. And again, we're using more mindset style wording and coaching, and again, it's the language we're using is creating their confidence, or they're able to relax and then voice their opinion and say, I'm not good, or I need help, or we congratulate another guy supporting each other. And like those, like you said, like they feel amazing when they've completed a task together. And you know yourself, we can do something ourselves and it feels great. But when we do it with a group of people, it's much better. After COVID and the impact that that's had on so many, on everyone, but kids and teens especially, that that part of their life was lost, and trying to get that back is huge because not
And
everyone wants to play team sport or anything
yeah,
along those lines either. So having your program, having what we do, or even just anyone that's helping kids in that aspect of
yeah.
community is huge, huge.
I've got massive respect for anyone that's out there at the moment working with kids because I like with the COVID thing as well. And I said this at the conference. I truly believe we've not even seen the wave yet of
Yeah,
what's coming. There's there's kids I know that are in year 6, some of the year 6 schools that I work in, and their social skills are almost the same as kids in year 3 and year 4. Like they
yeah,
don't get involved in anything. And and I always say, like, guys, is we need to start doing the work because next year you're stepping up, you're going from now into year 7, you're going into secondary school, and you're going to be in for a big shock because they're still playing games in the playground that you would see kids in year sort of 3 and 4 play,
yeah,
but they almost haven't had that maturity about them yet. And can you imagine like being sort of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age and being told that there's a virus outside that if you leave your house and you catch it, there's a chance you could die. You can't see your friends, you can't see your family, you can't go to school, can't go to football. You have to stay confined within your 4 walls of your house because if you leave and you catch this, it's killing people and it could kill you. Like how
yeah,
scary must that be for a child? You think about the impact it had on adults. You hear the amount of the suicide rates went up during lockdown. Like, I don't think many people have really stopped to think about the impact it has had. Everyone thinks kids, oh yeah, kids are really resilient. Yeah, they are resilient. Don't get me wrong. Kids are really resilient. But what you'll find is kids are resilient until they get older, and all that shit then fucking surfaces and
yeah,
materializes itself in years to come.
yeah. I think
I, I was a kid. When I was a kid, my mum and dad broke up. And I
yeah,
spoke about this in an assembly the other day. I went back to my old primary school the other day, which was a really weird experience, and I absolutely loved it. And I said to him, like, when I was here, my mum and dad broke up.
mm,
Like, and back then it wasn't a massive, we hear about it all the time now, but then it wasn't a big thing. Um, and but at the time, all I'd done is play football. Like, I knew mum and dad weren't together anymore. Yeah, I was upset, but my focus and my attention went onto football.
yeah,
And it's almost like kids don't know how to deal with that stuff. They sort of suppress it down. And that's what I done. I just pushed it down, played my football. My attention was on football and that was it. But then later on in life, guess what started to bubble to the surface? And even just talking about that in the assembly, I had a young lad always stay behind after the assemblies because I know what it's like. Kids don't like sharing in front of friends and family.
yeah,
I said, I'll stay behind 10 minutes afterwards. Anyone wants to come and speak to me afterwards, I'm more than happy to stay behind and help. This young lad come up to me and he was like, oh, yeah, you spoke about your mum and dad broke up. And I was like, yeah. He's like, my mum and dad broke up. I haven't seen my mum for over a year. And he started welling up and started getting upset. And I was like, okay, mate. So we had a bit of a chat. I sat with him and we had a talk. And I was like, if we could go and see anyone in the school right now that you would feel comfortable about talking this through with, who would it be? So he gave me a teacher's name. And we went to go and find this teacher and we sat down with her. And he didn't know me from Adam. Like he's seen me do an assembly and then he spent 5 minutes with me afterwards talking about something that really upset him. And we went and sat down with this lady. Anyway, cut a long story short, I gave him one of my journals.
mm,
And I said to him, like, we're focused on this stuff. And I said, you're focusing on this stuff because of what we've spoken about in assembly. I said, A, I'd have you consider that we spoke about courage and bravery in the assembly, and you've already demonstrated that this afternoon or this morning by coming up and speaking to me, a random stranger, about how you're feeling. That takes courage.
Huge.
And that's, we're putting our focus and attention on what's making you unhappy at the moment. So I gave him a journal, and we sat there, we went through the journal, how it's all written out. And after, mate, he was like a different kid afterwards.
Yeah.
He was smiles, just because I took 10, 15 minutes out of my day to sit with him, listen to what he's got, praise him for the fact that he's held his hand up and said, I'm unhappy at the moment. I need some help.
Yeah.
And I've given him a journal. And he was, honestly, mate, he was so happy at the end of it. And that's all it takes.
And that's why what you're doing is so impactful. And as it grows, it will become more impactful. And like you said, it's like, I think there's people that you meet in life, and there's people that I've met when I was younger who might have done a talk or a coaching program. And just straight away, I'm like, I know that I can, like, I want to either emulate or I feel comfortable in their presence because it's their presence, how they conduct themselves.
Yeah.
But it's also the aspect of I can tell a stranger what I can't tell my best friend.
Yeah.
Because the stranger doesn't know me and I won't get judged as harshly
100%.
from that.
And
And
it's relatable as well.
yeah,
You know, like he said that my parents are split up, and he related to that. And
yeah,
the other thing I do as well a lot of is I speak about my kids. I tell them stories about the boys and times when they weren't confident in doing something, but we worked on it, and then they got confidence, and that's how kids relate to stuff.
yeah. I suppose from there it's kind of like you know what you're doing is impactful, and there's so much needed out there that why. Like I always said, you could get rid of my business. I'd be happy enough to give up my kids and teens strength programs if the school systems fixed the fitness for education for kids and had them exercise every day. I'd be happy enough to shut down FSM Kids because we would stop obesity, we would stop anxiety, kids being overwhelmed. Well, it wouldn't stop, we would help definitely reduce the massive rates. Like everything's going on. You got to think, like, every mental issue for kids and teens is increasing. Obesity is increasing. Adult health related risks are increasing, all in kids. We have more gyms out there. We have more services for kids out there. But they're not getting the right tools or the right education to allow them to take the step necessary. And sometimes, I don't know, you because you're working with parents, you've probably met parents that didn't know what to do. They were just stumped. I don't know how to help my child.
Yeah. And that's inside the program. We do like monthly parent calls as well.
Yeah.
So, I get special guest speakers come in. We had Arjuna come in a few weeks ago, and he'd done like a talk on meditation and living like a fulfilling life and stuff like that. And some of the stuff the parents learned off the back of that was just like next level.
Yeah.
And it's important. I found like right at the start, I was coaching the kids and helping the kids, but I'd hand the kids back sometimes to the parents after a one-to-one or whatever it may be, and then I'd get a message afterwards and saying, "Oh, they're struggling with this, that, and the other," and then I'm almost helping the parents as well. Yeah. I was like, this isn't just about educating the kids now. This is also educating the parents, because they're the ones that are in sight. They're the ones that they're being listened to all the time.
Yes.
And they need these tools as well to show the kids. And I've had messages of parents saying, thanking me for helping them. They're like, what you're doing to help my child is also helping and supporting me. And I've had a massive turnaround in my life just off the back of that. And also the way you've helped me deal with what's going on with my child as well.
I think
that's a massive thing for a parent to even admit as well.
Yes. And like, if you look at it from a point of view as like, the fitness industry is one of the biggest industries on the planet. It's $1 billion and billions of dollars industry, fitness industry. Gyms everywhere, nutritionists everywhere, dietitians. You could just have to Google nutrition or strength coach near me, and you'll get like at least 10 to 20 people in a 5-mile radius or 2K radius, easy. But no one knows what to do. And it's the same with parenting. like there's no guidebook for parenting. There's no guidebook for when COVID hit. There's no guide, like, because a lot of people, a lot of parents grew up with shit in their life, and now
Yeah.
they're adults, and then they're having kids, and obviously they don't want their kids to go through the same thing they did, but then they were never shown how to navigate around that,
Yeah.
and those little tidbits of maybe try this, or like you said, like you're doing your monthly calls with the parents. It's like that information is like, oh yeah, I could do that, and like I get that a fair bit when it comes to like nutrition or even discipline on kids. I know like people, oh well, you should discipline your kids. It's like, well, no, there has to be rules. There has to be a bit of law and order in regards to because you're trying to educate them. And I'll give you an example. Uh, Last year, literally a year now in July will be a year that my son's iPad was taken away from him. I came home, whatever happened, I don't know, but I was told that he's not getting his iPad for a month. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And then he continued to aggravate his mother, and then it's gone until you read, like because he's not a strong reader. And I sat down with him, and I always sit down with him if he has an issue, and I go, look, here's the deal. You've done whatever I can't even remember what he did. That's how long it's been. And I said, so the rule is that you need to read 2 books, and when you finish 2 books, I'll give you your iPad back. He still hasn't finished the first book. Now, I'm not forcing him to read. We're not like making him do it. Like there's we did a thing where it was like he had to read 10 minutes before bed, but he really didn't like that. He's just not naturally into reading. I wasn't until I was 21, 22. I couldn't care about reading. So I said, would you rather read just 2 pages every morning for school? And he goes, yeah, I'd rather that. So he does that. He's 50 pages away from finishing his first book. And he was giving out about it. Yes, it was actually yesterday he gave out about it, about reading his 2 pages. And I went, so you really don't want your iPad? He goes, no, I do. I said, it's taking you a year to finish a book. We're not for it. If you don't read, you don't read. That's your choice. But I mean, it just prolongs. So if you really, really, really wanted your iPad, you could finish that book within 2 days.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah. I said, are you going to do that and then get your iPad back? He goes, no. So you don't really want. So you're not as bothered. I said, and that's the thing. And a lot of parents. So the point on that is a lot of parents are like, oh, we can't give up this and we can't give up that. I was like, well, if you give it up, it's going to be about a month of torture of them giving out because they're ingrained to having a certain kind of either whatever like tablet they use or phone or screen time, food, and then if you remove that, guess what happens? They will start to do other things. My son never asked for his iPad, so he doesn't need it. He knows it's there, and every now and again he goes, "Oh, I want my iPad," but like it's not important enough to him, and like that's the thing. You'll do the job if it's important enough to you. And if it's not important, you won't do the job.
Yeah.
I even said this to our kids, teen girls yesterday, because they were saying like some of them were up to like 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. I was like, what do you be doing? Oh, talking to friends on the screen. We're in bed. I was like, that's not sleeping. And I said, what would happen if your internet went at 7 p.m. every night? Every night your parents just shut off internet. You had no access to anything, and you're in your house, so you're not going anywhere. And they're like, oh, I couldn't survive. I couldn't live. I said, what would happen in about a month? And you're like, well, we'd start doing other things. Exactly. And then you'd realize that you didn't need that thing. So it's a crutch for you, a lot of people. And I think COVID had a big part to play in that because it was just, but but having that discipline in is like, well, from 7 o'clock on, there's no this. If you don't, you have to read a book if you want it. If my son wants anything that I have to pay for, he will have to do something to earn that. And that's one of the rules because nothing is given, everything is earned. And I think that's a staple in life. You want to get your jujitsu belt, you got to turn up, you got to be consistent. You want to become stronger, you got to put the reps in. You want to understand that you're doing better on a daily basis. You got to plan, you got to journal, you got to look back, you got to review. So then you know how far you've come. I think all of those things are stuff that we can, like, obviously you're doing, I'm doing, and it could be done so much more. And Yeah. Oh God, I've lost it there.
I think
Went
what
off on a
going back
tangent.
to what you said about the discipline thing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's massive because I see it all the time. Like you see in the supermarket, don't you? Kids kicking off, and the parents like, "Oh yeah, just have it, just to shut up," right?
Yes.
And I'm a massive believer in if you're going to discipline your kids, you need to stick to your word, like what you're
Yes.
doing. Because if you do not, if you discipline and you do not stick to it, and you go, "Oh well, you've turned it around. Here you go. You can have it now." What's that telling the child? Because they can't trust you
Yeah.
because you don't stay to your word. And this is the thing: people were like, "Oh, my kids don't really trust me to come over and talk to me." But have you looked at even down to the point of disciplining your child? If you discipline your child and you don't stay true to your word, does that or does that not show them that they can trust you?
Yeah. And I'd even go one better on the because I know the word discipline is probably now a negative term in this kind of
Yeah,
floaty society that we live in. I would say, like, I said, just raise your kids. Being a parent is possibly, and you've kids, I've kids, is one of the hardest jobs
yeah.
because you
Totally
want to
rewarded at the same
you
time.
want to be there, you want to give them everything, you want them to be happy. But then at
Yeah,
the same time, you want to be able to function in society, and that is a clear thing. You need to be able to function when I'm not around. My son
yeah,
and daughter have to be able to leave my house
yeah,
knowing how to live life, how to be, how to give respect and earn respect, and how to get what they want and not assume people would give it to them. And
yeah.
that's the thing. And there's a lot of people, there's just adults my age that assume that things should be handed to them.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of people, teenagers now, that we hear and we listen to, and we like. I hear parents talk about it, and again, I never give my 2 cents unless it's asked. But then half the time it's like, oh, that's just too hard because it's like, well, I don't want to put in the hard work because the hassle for my kids is not worth it. I'm like, yeah, but you're already
And what you teach them.
uncomfortable. You're already
Yeah,
uncomfortable where you are now. It's the same thing as
yeah,
fitness. Oh, you want to start a new fitness program to drop weight, get stronger. Oh, that's hard. But you hate being who you are.
yeah,
Yeah, but I'm okay. I'm used to being who I am. So you'd rather feel uncomfortable staying where you are, which is sad and uncomfortable, than attempting to be feel better. And guess what it costs? Hard work. And I think there's like the all over what encompass the whole conversation that we're having about mindset, resilience, and helping people is you have to be willing to change who you are for the better and do hard work.
yeah. 100%, mate. I think it's really important that kids learn that as well, like you were saying. For instance, like my lad, Alfie, he when he turned 16, he was like, I want a moped. I was like, okay, well, what can you do to get a moped? And like he's got into an apprenticeship. And every month he calculates what he needs, when he needs it, what he needs to put by, what he's got to live off of, like for lunches and stuff when he goes to work. And he bought his bike outright.
Yeah.
He paid for everything himself, MOT, the tax, the insurance obviously goes through my name because he can't get the credit for the rolling thing. But I said to him, I don't mind doing that because I
Mm,
can see you put in the work. Like
yeah.
I'm willing to meet you there because I can see how hard you've worked for it. And now he has such a great idea and understanding and value for money because I'm not just gone to him, oh, here you go, just go and buy yourself this. Because
Yeah.
he's worked for it and he looks after it. It's his baby, like he's always cleaning it, and he has a lot more respect for it because he's earned it himself and he understands that exchange in value. Like he needs to work hard in order to get the things that he wants.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's one of the having them earn it and understand it, the appreciation for it is huge
Yeah,
versus just being handed it. Oh, I'm 16, here's a moped or here's a car
yeah, yeah,
because my dad bought it. Or like, if you don't have to earn it. And I think like one of the things, money, financials are huge for kids to understand is like, if you get this much money, this is what it's going to cost you to like if you spend it on rubbish or you waste it away. And one of the best books that I've actually read, the book that my son's reading, it's the second Way to Warrior Kid book, and he was giving out about it. He wants a new bike, and the story was he wants a new bike. He wants his mum to buy him a new bike, and his uncle Jake is like, "But you got a new bike. It's outside. It's all rusted. You never took care of it." So he brings him to the dump They buy a bike frame and buys all the kit with his money, and he spends the summer building what he calls Bruiser. The bike's called Bruiser,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Well, now what we can do is we can sell your bike, and then you can go buy the bike in the shop." He's like, "I'd never sell this bike." He's like, "Why?" "Because I put all this time and effort into creating it. It's my bike." And then it
Yeah.
was like, "There's the lesson." Like, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, "Well, it's easier." Like, of course, it's easier just to go out and do it for them. But if they had to save the money up, and if they had to like do all the work and clean and look after it, then yeah, they're going to appreciate more things in their life. And they're going to appreciate what they've earned and appreciate the people around them. And they're like, and there's simple lessons to them to kind of implement into kids' lives. I think. Like we had a girl, we did the planner with her at the end of last year, and her goal was to save a tenner a week. And in 8 weeks, she saved over 350 quid, and she was chuffed because she realized that a tenner a week is not enough. This time, she started to plan her there last week. She's saving €100 a week, so she's going to go from saving 350 in 8 weeks to 800 in 8 weeks. I'm like, wow. I said, what are you going to do with all the money? She goes, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy expensive things that I like. I was like, that's perfect. Rather than blowing it all on, getting a
And she was
chipper, getting like going to the shop every day, buying like just wasting her money and not having anything to show for it. And I was like, that's 6 months of work, and she's already getting a good understanding of how to manage her financial situation. I was like,
yeah.
that's amazing. So that like again, all these different things that you could use to help parents. And again, it's stuff we can't. I think it's kind of stuff we know. A lot of
Yeah.
us know. It's just a little bit of hard work. It's going to make us feel uncomfortable, and we could be the bad guy for a while.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't want to be the bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's okay to be the bad guy because the bad guy, guess what? When your kids are old enough and they realize what you've done for them, they will thank you for it 100%.
My boy, he sent me a message the other day. He tagged me in something on Instagram, and it was along those lines. He was like, back when I was a kid, I just thought my dad was harsh on me, this, that, and the other. But now I realise that he always had my best intentions at heart,
Mm.
and he was teaching me valuable life lessons that have made me the man I am today. And it
Yeah,
really got me as well. When he sent me that, I was just like, it's so nice that I wouldn't say I've been extremely harsh on the boys. I don't think I've ever even shouted at the kids. Like, but what I will do is I'll be very firm on my discipline. Like, if I say this is what's going to happen for your
yeah,
punishment, that's what's going to happen. And obviously, as a kid, like if you say no iPad or whatever, it's almost like it's the end of the world. But the fact that he recognizes that now and he's like you taught me some really valuable lessons in life, and he's only just turned 17.
mm.
The fact that he recognizes that now, and yeah, it was really nice to hear. And it's so important that parents realize that you're not being a bad guy. Like sometimes being the bad guy is the best thing for your kid. Like
Yeah,
them to see you as the bad one. Because the other thing as well is like you will always find that they'll be the ones that the kids come to the most with problems.
yes, yes,
They're almost like it's a weird combo, isn't it? It's like, oh, they're the bad one, but I feel like I could go and talk to them because they're the badass that's going to help me solve it.
yeah. Because the person that gives you everything doesn't know how to talk to you.
Yeah,
They'll just they'll just say what they think you want to hear because
yeah,
that's what they're doing. And this is I think goes into school and sports. Like everyone remembers that one teacher that was a hard ass teacher, but you did the work, you respected them, and you did the work for them because they took no medicine. And guess what? And I remember we did a thing called Mr. Early, and we were doing our leaving cert, so we're coming out, and we went in, and he goes, "I don't care how good or bad you are at maths. You will all pass your maths. I don't accept failing students." And we're all like, and some of the kids like they were not good at maths, and they some asked to leave the class. Guess what happened? Every single kid that finished that year passed, got at least a D in their maths.
yeah,
And because he goes, I don't accept it. If you're bad at it, you just work more. I've had coaches who I would be fearful. I even met a guy, Mike Hollis, even met him. I did some camps with him. I had the actual privilege to coach alongside him in some camps about 2, 3 years ago. When he still gives out, I'm still like, and I'm a 42-year-old man, like, and I'm still like, there's like, you can have fun. We do the work. Do not piss me off. Do not disrespect anyone in the room. But if you do everything that I've asked you to do, we're going to have a great camp.
Yeah, yeah,
If you cross the line, we're going to have a conversation. And trust me, you're not going to like what the outcome of that is.
yeah,
And it's 100. And I could tell him the world. I could tell him all my failings. I could tell him everything, and he'll just go, "Now, what are you going to do about it?"
yeah.
And it's that those type of people in the world are the people that, and everyone has one. It's that someone you look up to, someone you admire, and we all have them. And there's people on the world. The point is that you as a parent can be that person. Like those coaches aren't, or teachers aren't just, oh no, if it's okay. Do you want to just take a rest? Do you want to not do anything? You don't have to do maths today. That's fine. Or you don't have to push. You don't have to do the sprints today in training. That's fine. We'll just take it easy because you're feeling a little bit off. Whereas parents tend to, and we're all a little bit, I suppose we can lean towards that a little bit, but that's like, you can be that person. You have to be rigid. You have to be strong and structured in the end goal for your kids.
And consistent with it as well.
Yes. Yeah, well, the consistency thing is huge. And if you're in a relationship, your wife or partner, you just have to play the same game. You can't undermine the other because you're causing bigger problems. You see that when parents split up. I did it with my parents. I played one off the other to get things that I wanted because they weren't communicating. And that's the other thing, is like, if I say this is what's going to happen now, then, and even if my wife agrees or disagrees, she will go, well, this is what your dad said, and we're going to do that. And it's Susan does the same thing, and maybe I'm like, oh, I don't know. I go, well, that's what she says, so I'll put her up, because then because kids, they're not dumb. Like they'll figure out if they can. Because like, my son will go and ask his mum for something, and then she'll say no. He'll come downstairs and come straight to me and go, "Can I have the same thing?" And I go, "Did he ask you something upstairs?" Because
Yeah.
I might be like, "Yeah," and then he'd be like, and then he gets to get, and then I end up in trouble, which is the last
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
So I suppose for what you're doing now, what's the goal for Fearless? What is the plan? Obviously, not only impacting kids and teens and parents, but what's the goal for you and the program?
I've set myself a huge target in the next 3 to 5 years to impact 1 million lives. That's what I'm working towards. Whether that's through assemblies inside the program, whether that's outreaching more, getting more people on board around the country, running assemblies for me as well. But I want the Fearless program to be out there, and I want it to impact between I want it between the next 3 to 5 years. I want it to impact 1 million lives, because I
That's
think,
brilliant.
like I said earlier, about this wave that's coming, man, and I don't think we're prepared for it properly with these kids. I see telltale signs of it now with a few of them, but we've got this younger generation that missed out on a whole part of socializing, which is a really
Yeah,
important part of their development, their education, the things that they had to deal with in that time. And I've just got this feeling, I know it's coming. There's going to be a wave that's going to hit. I mean, you only have to look at the stats since 2017. Mental health in children has just gradually grown over the years.
yeah,
I think it's like 5 young people every single day lose their lives. And that's a mad statistic. 1 in 4, I think. In 2022, it was 1 in 6 children had a probable mental health issue, and now they reckon it's about 1 in 4,
yeah.
which is disgusting. Like, it's an awful stat.
Oh,
Like,
completely.
kids should not be having to go through this stuff. Like, they shouldn't be feeling these things. They should be kids. They should be
Yeah,
out there loving life, learning lessons. They shouldn't be having to deal with this stuff. I hear kids all the time, mate. Like, I'm talking like kids in like year 3 and 4 come out going, "Oh, I'm depressed today." You don't know what depression is.
yeah.
Like, you
Because they're
don't know.
labeled.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that that labeling thing, and I know we spoke to Nikki about this, Nikki Edwards, who runs Dandelion, but I remember saying it to her, as like, all the labels. I said, I don't, I'm tired, and there's validity to some labels for some kids, but a lot of people just want those labels, and then it's like, well, there's the sign off, there's the tick the box. my
Mate,
child has.
yeah.
And then I know the services are letting a lot of parents down too. But it's that thing. Like, and I have kids that come into my gym that tell me, "Oh, I have ADHD, or I have dyspraxia, or I have dyslexia," and it's the first thing they tell me. And I was like,
I was going
"That's
to say,
not
mate,
you."
it's the first thing that I get told
Yeah,
sometimes. They're like, so and so, oh hi, this is so and so. He's just been diagnosed with autism and ADHD. I'm like, okay, cool. But it doesn't. I don't let it define them. At the end of
yeah,
the day, they're still, Freddie. They're still Harry. They're still whoever they are. They just need a little bit of extra help and support. They need a little bit more understanding,
yeah,
and you just need to take a different angle with it. And yeah, and I hear about it all the time. You hear in the schools like teachers saying, "Oh, so and so is going through some testings and stuff at the moment, and oh, the NHS is taking too long, so I'm going to go private." And you know what the mad thing is as well? Like, I know that a lot of these private, what are they called, the testings and stuff, they're not
yeah,
validated inside the schools. Like
yeah. So it's
they won't get the extra funding for it. It has to
mm,
come through the NHS. Like if they get the private funding, they get the private diagnosis, the
they still
funding's
have
not
to
there
give
for it.
it. Yeah,
So all you're doing is you're literally just banging a label on a kid and then just sending them in
mhm,
back into the same situation. Nothing's really changing.
yeah. And I,
And
and I think there's things that we can do like those parents with the information down. So like I know that I didn't excel in certain things. I'm more
yeah,
of a creative person, I think. Wasn't very academic in regards to English or grammar or reading. I just generally wasn't. I like to read now, but when I was a kid, it was literally the bane of my existence, English class. But what I do now with my son, especially he's finished school this week, so he's off for the summer. We have a plan. Last summer we weren't learned the times tables. This summer we're going to finish them off. He's going to learn all the counties of the country. He's going to. What's the other thing we're going to do? We have another thing that we're going to plan, and literally what that will be is he will have 10 minutes every morning to work on himself. And people are like, "Oh, well, he's on a summer holidays." I was like, he has 10 minutes to spare. He can do 10 minutes a day, and I'll be with him, and I'll do the 10 minutes with him. Every single morning, we'll get up and we'll do something that is going to benefit him, whether he wants to or not. And that's a lesson of we only spend 10 minutes on this. And guess what? By the time he goes back to school, he will know more about things than his peers
yeah,
because they're like, well, he's going to learn that he doesn't have, like one of the things learning all the counties in Ireland and the provinces and stuff like that. Oh, well, he doesn't have to learn that till he's in third class. I was like, "Hmm? Does that mean he can't
yeah,
learn it now?
yeah,
He's already halfway through. He knows most of the counties in the country. He just has to learn one more province, and he can label like all 32 counties." I was like,
yeah,
but that took, and literally how we're doing that is that we're waiting 10 minutes before Gately, before he plays his match in the car. We learn them all, and
yeah.
that's it. And parents can help kids. If your kid has autism or ADHD, there's people out there that can help. I know Nikki can help, Nikki Edwards and Dandelion, anyone that's in the service. Like, what's a 10-minute drill that we could do, or a 10-minute practice we could start implementing into our family unit on a daily basis or a couple of times a week, and we keep it consistent, that in 6 months, the benefit will be seen. And I can't do 10 minutes, 5-minute drill, 5-minute practice. That
Yeah.
we all do this. But again, I think there's a lot of people's like, well, I need someone else to come in and help me. I was like, no, if
They're
you
focusing on
have,
what you can't do. That's the
yeah,
thing. So let's focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do.
exactly,
Doesn't
exactly.
matter if you've got ADHD or if you've got autism or whatever. You're like, there's going to be things that are going to have a positive effect on you.
Yes,
It doesn't matter who you are. Going out for a run is going to raise your energy. Lifting
yes,
weights is going to raise your energy. Listening to your favorite song on the radio is going to raise your energy. There's
yes,
going to be things you can do every single day, regardless of what label or whatever you're carrying, that is going to change how you feel and change your mood.
yeah, 100%. And and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be. People think it needs to be an overhaul. It doesn't. It's just something small. Just start some. If you've never done it, start small. Always start small, and then it's this time 6 months, this time a year, this time 5 years when your kid is 16, 17, 18 years of age. and they're further down the road. It's that whole thing of just like you start off small and then it grows, and then you see the fruits of your labor. Like you put a seed in the ground, and then in 10 years you got an apple tree. Like that's the thing.
It's
That's
the
it. Like
compound, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Just doing the same thing
compound
over and
effect.
over again.
So, Chris, before we finish up, I have one more question.
You know,
Uh, and the question is, what would you say to parents, any parent listening to this podcast that is struggling with their kid for any reason, whether they're labeled, not labeled, or just having a tough time with with their kids? What would be your one or top three piece of advice for them to start getting a handle on it and having a better family unit long term or further down the road?
number one would be what would you tell your kid? If your kid was struggling with something, you would tell them to put their hand up and ask for help. If you're struggling, it doesn't matter what it is, put your hand up and ask for help. Seek out someone that can help, support, coach, whatever it may be, to help you with that situation. We spend all our lives telling kids, oh, if you don't know the answer to something, then ask the question. Yeah. Let's lead by example. If we don't know or we need help, we need to start showing them that we can ask for help as well. It doesn't make you a bad parent. It doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing your job as a parent. It just means you need a little bit of help and support. So that would be the first one. The second one would be, I would suggest that if your child's not active, get them active. There's a massive correlation between physical and mental health. You know yourself that, we spoke about just a minute ago that having that physical aspect inside of your life will have a huge impact on your mental health as well. And thirdly, I think just do some research. Like, don't just naturally assume that whatever you get told, if your child has gone through a diagnosis or whatever, don't just naturally assume that what you've been told is going to fit them, because they're not. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
That's why there's a spectrum, and that's why it's so wide and broad, because everyone falls into it in a different category. So not everyone is going to fall into a certain box or certain information that you're given. Every child is going to be different. We're all different. That's what makes the world so brilliant. So do some research and just trial and error of things. One child might be more into listening to music to help them calm. One might find it easier to write their feelings down on a bit of paper. One might find it easier to go and do something physical. But find those things, do some research, find out. Don't just take whatever you're told by the doctor, whoever it is, that's it. You should be doing this, because it doesn't always fit all. It's not one size fit all. So I think they're the main sort of things that I would suggest to parents to do. I think the most important one I'm seeing at the moment is just ask for help. We're always telling kids, if you're struggling with something, ask for help. Lead by example. If you need help, stick your hand up. Let them see you asked for help, because then that's going to show them that it's okay to ask for help. It doesn't make you a bad parent.
Yeah. I think that's probably a big one. A lot of parents don't want to show that they might need help, especially to their kids. It might feel it undermines them, but I think that's a really good lesson, and that's something that, I definitely think that's probably a big one. I think that would be a big one for parents to kind of listen to and try to come to terms with. Yes, no, that's exactly what I need to be doing. But Chris, for anyone that is into, obviously, because you do online, we will put Chris's links in the show notes. So if you want to contact Chris, give him a follow, or just see what he's doing with the amazing work that he's doing with his kids, be one of the million people he's going to impact, definitely give him a like and a follow. Or if you have any questions, post them in the comments either on YouTube or on Spotify, and we'll be
Just
happy
give me a shout.
Yeah, give him a shout.
I never turn anyone away. If anyone ever needs any help, I'm always happy to offer advice or help.
Yeah. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. I've got some cool guests coming up, and we're actually we might be changing the studio and all that. So not if you're listening on Spotify, it makes no difference. But give us a like and a follow. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the people that come on the show, because we get to help more people and spread the word. So we will catch you all on the next one.
The big thing I say is, like, you got to win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed.
What you truly value.
No right way and there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler Podcast.